And welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and I got another Streets of New Capenna card here that I think I got to talk about right away as soon as it was spoiled. Again, another non-legendary card, which is usually a little out of the ordinary for me, but I think it's going to be a very impactful card on the format, so I should probably discuss it right away. And it is Halo Fountain, 2 and a white artifact. So it's a white artifact. Pay a white and tap. Untap a tapped creature you control. Create a 1/1 green and white citizen creature token. Pay white and tap. Untap 2 untapped creatures you control to draw a card. And you can pay 5 white and tap. Untap 15 tapped creatures you control. You win the game. So obviously, that win the game part is going to really grab people's attention, but let's just get away from that for a bit, okay? Let's just look at those first two abilities. The first ability is actually a really good ability. Just paying white and tapping to untap a tapped creature you control. So now that's an advantage, right? Once you get up to the higher amount of creatures, the more creatures you get, the harder it gets. But just untapping a tapped creature you control that's a good thing, right? That's an upside. So now you attack with your creature, and then on your second main phase or whatever, or I guess it's an instant ability, so you can do it right after you attack. You can immediately untap that creature, create a token. That's a pretty good ability. That is a very, very usable ability, and in so many decks, any deck where you're attacking, or even if you have a tapped creature for any reason, right? You have a creature with a tap ability. This could be even like a 1,000-year elixir, really. If you have a commander that is white, that is tapping to use its ability all the time, this is a great way that you can just untap it, use it again, and then you get a token on top of it. That's great. The second ability, and of course, it's white drawing cards, so everyone's going to lose their mind over that. 2 white and tap, and untap 2 untapped creatures, draw a card. Now, this is where it gets a little more difficult, right? Untapping 1 creature, super easy. Now you need 2. So if you're in any sort of an attacky theme, that shouldn't be that difficult, right? If you're in some deck that's even creating tapped attacking tokens or something, this is really easy to do because, again, you can do it at instant speed. So you can attack, you create those tokens, even if the tokens you're throwing them at an opponent that's going to block and kill them, you can do this before they die, right? So in a deck like that where you're creating lots of tokens and stuff, it is going to be very easy for you to use this second ability. So this essentially is white and a white and draw a card, right? Tap and draw a card. So it's like an Endless Atlas, right? Endless Atlas in a white deck, which is another reason why I like this card, because of all those white mana symbols. And I already had said this about the last, Rumor Gatherer, the other white card, where it's putting more white mana symbols in it means you're restricting the amount of decks it's going to go in, which is a good thing. They should have done that with Smothering Tithe, right? So here, 2 white's not that difficult. You could probably do that in a lot of decks. So that's not super difficult, but it is a little restrictive and is going to be better in a mono white deck. I would say this is a pretty darn decent mono white card draw effect for sure. Now, why is this a problem? Well, the reason it's a problem is because anytime you have a card that says you win the game on it, it's going to make you a target, right? At the very least, it's going to be removal magnet. How often are you going to be able to get off that last ability? Oh my goodness, it's going to be rare. It's going to be very rare, right? Because first of all, the mana should be an issue. Again, in a mono white deck, shouldn't be an issue. It's going to be really difficult to use. Like, I'm thinking my Shanna deck, which has tons of little creatures lying around, I could definitely get up to that 15 tapped creatures. And again, you don't have to, you can just swing with your whole team. If you have 15 creatures, you swing with your whole team, don't care about blocking or damage or nothing, right? You're going to win the game. So you don't care about any of that. All you have to do is swing with your whole team. As long as you have 15 creatures, you can pay the 5, untap your whole team, and you win the game. Even in my Shanna deck, that should be doable. I'm considering this for my Shanna deck because I can get up to the 15 creatures, and the 5 white mana should not be that big of an issue. The issue comes in after I jump through all those hoops. I get the 15, like your opponents are sitting there watching you, right? I suppose you could do this where you have your 15 creatures and then right before you attack, you play your Hollow Fountain. That might be the best way to go. Assuming you have enough white, so you're going to need 6 white mana total. That's a lot, but if you're going to win the game, it doesn't really matter, right? I think that might be the best bet here. Like for me, if you're going to play this on like turn 3 or 4 or something, And if you think it's going to sit there until you get up to 15 creatures, no way. No, it is going to be like a Smothering Tithe is really good. Smothering Tithe is a phenomenal card. Some would say a busted card in a commander game. Same with Rhystic Study. Same with a lot of artifacts and enchantments. But they're not actually going to straight up win you the game. This is going to be more of a target than any of those other cards because it actually wins you the game. Now, I will say some people are irrational when it comes to stuff like this, right? You have to be rational, okay? But if you're thinking about it this way, you have a Krosan Grip in your hand, right? Your opponent plays Halo Fountain on turn 3, and then your next opponent plays a Rhystic Study. What are you going to do? Are you going to kill the Rhystic Study right away, or are you going to save the Krosan Grip for the Halo Fountain because you think at some point your opponent is going to use it to win the game, and you don't want to risk the chance that you're not going to draw more enchantment removal or artifact removal, right? Right? It could be a tough choice. For me, I have lots of artifact and enchantment removal. If that's the deck, okay, let's do a scenario here. I'm in a mono blue deck, right? Mono blue has 2 options for artifact removal. You got Resculpt and Raven Form, which I have on all my mono blue decks, right? So my opponent plays this. Am I going to chance it? Am I going to use my Raven Form on that Elishnorn, right? Another opponent just played an Elishnorn. I have my Raven Form in hand. What am I going to use it on? Am I going to take the chance that maybe someone else will deal with it? Am I going to take the chance that maybe I'll draw my Resculpt, use the Raven Form and the Elishnorn and just sort of roll the dice and see what happens? Or am I going to save it now because of this? So this card actually might have your opponents making some tough decisions, which maybe that's a good thing too, The only problem is, and again, this is why I don't like cards that are removal magnets, because all it does, right, when you have a Rhystic Study, and again, it's a fantastic card, and it is definitely worth it, I think, to put in your deck. I play a Rhystic Study, my opponent has a removal spell, they're not going to use it on, now if someone else, let's say, okay, I got the Rhystic Study, opponent has a removal spell for it, artifact and enchantment removal spell. What it does, not only is it a removal magnet, but it now allows my other opponents to play their less powerful artifacts and enchantments without risk of them getting removed, because now you're using your removal spell for the Rhystic Study, right? So it's sort of an added bonus for you. You know what I mean? The removal spell is now being used on the Rhystic Study or the Smothering Tithe or the more powerful artifact and enchantment, and now your stuff is probably going to stick around a lot longer because the stuff that is removal magnets is getting removed first. Where does this fit in? That's the interesting part. Is it going to be worth it? I'm definitely going to try this card out. I'm just wondering, like, if this card was just those first 2 abilities, it almost might be better. It almost might be better without that last ability, because I think the last ability, when people see you win the game, it of course makes you a removal magnet, right? People are going to want to get it off the table. Now, are they going to want to get it off the table right away? That's the thing. That's the trick. Are you going to play this turn 3 and then someone immediately removes it because they don't want to take any chances? If that's the case, to me, then I'm not going to put it in any of my decks, because I probably most likely will put it in my deck for the first 2 abilities. The first 2 abilities are really, really great. Those are great utility abilities. Being able to untap your commander to reuse it again or whatever other attacking creature, and you're making tokens on top of it. Again, that fits beautifully in my Shanna deck, probably some of my other decks as well. And the, essentially an endless Atlas sort of scenario there where you're paying 2 to draw a card is also great in a mono white deck. So those first 2 abilities are fantastic. And the last ability is like, I kind of almost wish it wasn't on there, because now, again, it's just going to make this get removed. And now my opponent gets to keep his Rhystic Study because, the other opponent is using their Krosan Grip on my Halo Fountain instead, which, it's sort of a double whammy, because now I lose something and they get to keep something, right? So this is all the kind of stuff I think about when I'm evaluating a card. Is there's 4 players, everyone's got to make lots of decisions. What's going to be the case here? I don't know. I honestly don't. This is a card that hopefully it's not going to be too expensive. I mean, it is a mythic. So I'm going to have to, I might get a copy of it and I'll throw it in a deck or maybe a couple of decks, try it out, and I'll see what happens. It's a tough one. It's Esper Sentinel, right, is a card that is kind of a removal magnet. People see it, and that's a card I've taken out of a lot of my decks. I only have it in just the one deck. I was like, oh, I'm going to put this in all my white decks. I've been taking it out because it is a removal magnet. People it's almost worse than, because it only costs 1, it's almost worse than Rhystic Study in a way, because people see it and they just want to get it off the table right away. Where's this going to fall in all that, right? Is this going to be a removal magnet? Because of that, you win. I mean, the other stuff's good too. So it's not, if you play this turn 3 and your opponent goes, oh, well, he's going to be making lots of tokens, he's going to be drawing lots of cards, I'll just get rid of it right away. That's also a scenario there, right? And so where does this fall in there? I don't know. Are people going to look at this card and just think it's kind of goofy? They're never going to actually win the game. What are the chances that happen? And they would be right. Paying that all that mana and untapping 15 tapped creatures to win the game is going to be something that is not going to happen very often, right? So it is it going to be a card that when you play, people are like, I'm not worried about it? That might be the case as well. I guess we will see, but just such an interesting card, and I think it is going to be impactful in the format. So I had to give it a little chat right away, and comment below where you guys think. I have a feeling I will see a lot of comments where people are like, this is just a goofy meme card, and then I'll have a lot of comments where people are like, this card's busted, you have to get it off the table right away. I think we'll be all over the place here with people's opinions on this. That's what I'm thinking. But let me know what you guys think. That is it for today, and thanks for tuning in.